Hey everyone, Infinitecaz here, and welcome to another Splatoon 2 weapon guide. Today, I'm going to be talking about the longest range weapon in the game, that being the Elita 4K scope. This slow, yet powerful charger can be very scary in the right hands, but it takes a lot of patience and skill to use it to its full potential. Today, I want to tell you all about this weapon and how to pick it up and use it well. Just to say, I do not main the Elita, but I have played more than enough of this weapon to understand how to use it and its kits properly. I hope I can teach you something with this video, and with that being said, let's get right into it. So let's start off by running through the Elita stats and basic info that any player needs to know. This weapon, similar to the Splat Charger, has a scoped and unscoped version. The unscoped version can hold a full charge in ink for a second, but it lacks the extra range and precision the scoped version has. The unscoped version has a range of 96, while the scoped has a full 100. This means that the scope can reach places slightly easier, but the better mobility that comes with the unscoped is more than worth it for some people. Regardless, you'll be outranging the rest of the weapon roster, which is the Elita's main attribute. While its range doesn't hold a candle to Splatoon 1, it still has the ability to reach far off places with ease and apply an immense amount of pressure. The Elita shines on big, open maps, with a lot of spaces to stand such as Moray Towers and Camp Triggerfish. However, you are very slow and vulnerable as a trade-off, so you'll have to learn how to minimise your weaknesses and capitalise off your strengths to master this weapon. As a charger, you have to hold ZR to charge a shot so you can deal enough damage to one-hit opponents. Your damage ranges from 40 with a tap shot to 80 just before a full charge, enough to get a pick in a variety of intense situations. It takes 1.35 seconds to fully charge, and once this is complete you can deal out 180 damage. 180 is enough to shred through armour if it isn't at full health, as well as deal significant damage to ballers, brellas and booyah bombs. While the Splat Charger can deal this much damage with main power up, it isn't that optimal, and the Elita gets a heavy hitting weapon instantly, a huge plus for the main weapon. Partial charges may never be able to deal 100 damage, but they can help pick people off at a closer range when you're rushed. It's also important to know how ink heavy the main weapon is. A tap shot only takes up 2.25% of your ink tank, but with no ink saver a full charge takes up a whole quarter, making conserving your shots vital so you don't run out at a vital time. The Elita is also a very heavy weapon, and your swim speed is reduced when you play it, so you won't be moving around the map very quickly if you need to reposition. But this isn't a huge issue as the Elita is a stature weapon. Now let's talk about the weapon's kits. The vanilla comes with Ink Mines and Inkstorm, which is the preferred kit and for a few reasons. Ink Mines may seem redundant at first, but they can be placed in common flank spots and near your snipe position to warn you of approaching opponent and to weaken them. The damage dealt by an Ink Mine can make your opponents vulnerable enough to tap shot, so you have a way to defend yourself up close if you're careful. The special Inkstorm only takes 170p to charge, and due to the Elita's long range it builds it very quickly. This weapon is perfect for chip damage and helps your more aggressive opponents with picks, and it can drive people away from the objective. This kit suits the Elita well, and while it may not be the best kit it could have, it more than suffices. Now let's touch on the custom Elita's kit. The sub is squid beacons, which gives your teammates a safe jumping point, and can help you move back to your sniping area if you need to escape. It also helps on large maps like Moray Towers and Arowana Mall, as you can get back to mid much quicker and continue to apply pressure. However, it doesn't give you a line of defence, and like the main weapon, it's very ink heavy. However, its special, bubbles, are the main reason this kit is underused. Not because of the special itself, but how poorly the main weapon combines with it. To pop them, even with Object Shredder, it takes a good few seconds, which is far too slow to use them in a pinch or even to push in at close range. They can either be used as a shield or to apply to a large area of pressure, but in my opinion, the vanilla Elita simply does its job better. You may want to consider the custom in maps like Moray, but it's a niche pick for sure. So how do you play the Elita? The aim of the game is patience and good aim. As you outrange everyone in the game, you can simply push the objective and wait for people to come to you. Every map has different vantage points, and if you can stay there, you will have a huge scope to pick off your enemies from. Map control is also key. You can easily keep control of mid if nobody tries to challenge you. As a sniper, you will be relying on your aim to perform well. Before you pick up this weapon, go into the training room and mess around with your sensitivity until you find one that allows you to hit your shots with ease. I would go for a lower sensitivity, but definitely not -5, as it's just too slow to perform at your best. Your sensitivity is entirely up to you, so I won't recommend one in particular, but for reference I use -2 with motion and 0 for my stick. In the training room, warm up your aim before going into a match, and you can do this by hitting the dummies, straight on at first, but then you can snap at the stationary and moving targets to accustom yourself to the weapon before going into a match. When you start a game, I would paint a path straight to mid, and see if you can get any early picks from when slayers rush in. At the start of the game, people are often less aware of snipers, as they are tunnelling on the objective and kills. Peek around a corner from a safe vantage point, then try to pick off anyone that is moving predictably. Try to then either paint or push the objective, depending on the mode obviously, but the Elite shines at keeping mid control first and foremost. Once you have control, you may want to push forward with your team, keeping a watch for flanks and picking off anyone that comes within your range. You can then use your special to further support. I understand that your aim won't be great when you first pick up this weapon, but your ability to reach places and paint is great pressure, so you can block off pathways and deter your opponents from aggressing. Because you outrange everyone, your opponents have the right to be scared of you, as they don't know anything about your capabilities. This may not work further into a match if a particularly aggressive opponent realises that you are not that great at aiming, so be very wary of being rushed, especially if you have to back up. Speaking of such, if somebody tries to aggress you, either jump out or back away. Quickly assess the situation and think if you have a chance at winning the engagement. If you are unsure, just jump out, as you are far more valuable alive than as a sitting duck. The fewer times you die the better. An average for me is about 3 times a game, but in an ideal world you won't die at all. If you think you can win a fight, either place your mines or use your partial shots to deal enough damage to them. A huge disadvantage you have is your lack of mobility, which increases your vulnerability to bombs, specials and many weapons like rollers and fellow chargers. This is why you should never be too out in the open or pushed forward when trying to get picks. Always make sure you are keeping watch of any potential routes people could use to sneak up on you, as well as having an escape route handy in case it comes to that. Bombs can be easy to die to if you're not paying full attention, especially if you are tunnelling on a pick. Always listen out for bombs, and if you hear one, simply move out of its 1-hit KO range and put your guard up. A bomb landing near you means you are being watched, and opening yourself up to them is near certain death. You will also solo outrun a slayer, so it's best to jump out in most situations. I've rambled for long enough about positioning and dealing with aggression, but what about aim? It will come with time and experience. Be prepared to fail horribly at first, but the more you play, the more situations you will be placed in, which will gradually sharpen your game sense and allow you to be a more efficient player. A common tactic is called snapping, where you flick the controller quickly to catch opponents that are either moving rapidly or way out of your scope. This is near essential to dealing with opponents, especially as your charge time is so long. It will take time with your motion to be able to snap effectively, and a lot of the time it simply feels like luck when you hit a perfect shot on that tricky opponent. I can't give too much more advice, apart from simply playing the weapon and getting a feel for it. Every charger main plays their weapon slightly differently, so don't be scared to experiment with how you play. Sticking to rigid guidelines will harm you more than not in the long run. The Elite plays best in splat zones, as its map control makes it easy to hold the objective and take it back. Because the objective doesn't move, it's very easy to sit in mid and keep people away from it. You can also get picks when pushing back into the zone, as you are so disconnected from the action all the time. Your kit is also great at keeping your opponents out of the zone, with 8 mines acting as a fast line of defense in many situations. The Elite's lack in mobility is far from an issue here, and splat zones is the mode I reach for the Elite most. It is often outclassed by other chargers in other modes, but it's constantly a good pick due to its ability to lock down control. In tower control, because the tower is an easy target and moves by itself, the Elite still plays well on it. You are great at pushing the objective and moving the rest of your team forward when gaining control. You're great at defense, as it's easy to get a pick on the tower at a distance, especially in larger maps. The E-liter shines at keeping people away from the objective in tight areas, increasing both your offense and defense. In Rainmaker, the E-liter can work, but it struggles with pushing up quickly and keeping away from the Rainmaker's shots. Now, every weapon carries the Rainmaker at the same speed, so you are good at pushing the objective while your team pushes forward further. Your good range can also keep people away from the Rainmaker, and you can instantly shut down a push with a quick snipe as soon as they try to snitch it. However, your bad mobility can make it tough to adapt to fast pushes or a sudden defense, and you'll have to quickly change from defense to offense to make the E-liter work. Not saying it can't be done, but it's far from an optimal pick, and the main reason you would run the E-liter is because it fares well with the map. Now let's touch on the E-liter in clams, by far its worst mode. While you can do a good job at getting picks and defending the basket, the E-liter does not fare well when being aggressive in a mode that backlines themselves are being run less and less. The custom may be an interesting pick in maps that favour the E-liter, but overall I don't think it's worth it in most situations, unless you feel like it works with your comp. To summarise, the E-liter mainly focuses on defense and map control, and it does its job well. However, you often find yourself struggling to adapt to more aggressive situations. If you can master your aim and learn all the best vantage points, you will be a huge threat for anyone that comes into your range, but you need to be very wary of the setbacks that come with your huge range and damage. The E-liter is very gear dependent, but there are many things you may want to prioritise when building your kit. A must in my opinion is ink saver main, so you can fire off more than 4 shots with a full ink tank, as well as have more ink left over. Ink recovery is also nice, as it cuts down the time you need to fill your ink tank back up. Another must is main power up. This increases your range slightly, up to 5.2% on the unscoped and 4.8% on the scoped, which is very significant when considering the E-liter's already impressive range. Main power up also increases paint coverage by just under 20%, so it helps you get your special even faster. Quick super jump, special saver, bomb defense DX and ink resistance are all great, but you only need 1 or 2 subs of each to have an important effect. Other abilities you may want to run are personal preference. Special charge works, but your special is 170p to begin with, so it's already very affordable. A bit of swim speed can help to mitigate your decreased base speed, and special power up may be good on the bobbles to increase their radius. Also, for the custom, sub power up and beacons increases the speed you jump to them, so it can be worth it. More niche abilities like Tenacity and Respawn Punisher work on the E-liter due to how disconnected it is, but they are more solo queue abilities than ones you would want to consider using in competitive. Abilities you don't want to run are sub saver, as both subs and the E-liter are usually used when you are not in need of ink. Quick respawn is bad on charges and even worse on the E-liter, as you should be dying the least, and you also won't be strafing, so run speed is redundant. Come back, opening gambit, and other slate abilities are also a no-go. I would experiment with different sets until you find something that truly works for you and your playstyle. Get a plan together for what you want, then build your set, and tweak it when you think something else is more important. So let's finish this off by summarising everything I went through. The E-liter is a charger with a huge range that can easily pick off opponents and get splat after splat. However, it's very important to know what your weaknesses are, that being your swim speed and lack of close range options. Playing such a slow weapon isn't for everyone, but if you enjoy backlines, specifically chargers, I would encourage you to try this weapon out. It's a great pick in many situations and a fun weapon to pick up at the end of the day. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I hope you enjoyed. If you think I missed anything, be sure to let me know in the comments. I hope I taught you something this time around, and with that being said, I will see you all soon. Bye!